Hello and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, the 8th of December 2025. It's Gary here again, and yes, you can probably see if you are watching this on YouTube, this is our first ever video that we have been doing on the NARSA weekly update. I resisted video for quite some time, I have to say. If you like the video, please do provide some feedback on that, and then I'll take all the credit and say that it was my idea. If you don't like the video, you can blame Stephen Johnson from the London Rangers Supporters Club. I can get you his details. You can contact him directly and and see what that looks like as we are moving forward together. It's time maybe to give it a bit of a go. I was actually weighing up the pros and cons, and one of the main reasons I haven't done video for the longest time, because this is now episode 256 of the weekly update, sorry, and the video was never really part of the initial equation. And then when we got the YouTube channel up and running and started doing that, as you probably know, it's just an image that's basically laid on, and then the audio comes after it. But part of it was, one, I didn't really know the technology too well. Two, it's time consuming enough without actually having to do the actual video component. And then three, like, this is a face for radio. I don't know that anybody really wants to see this, but that's just one of these things. And of course, if you're listening to this, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. So that was kind of like the cons. Then I thought about the pros, and I thought, right, well, what would be the best part of that? Well, the best part of that it gets me a wee bit more exposure and experience in terms of video production. I do a lot of video production on my business side. If you're ever on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or wherever, at LinkedIn, of course, I do daily posts and stuff like that, just wee short clips and videos and such, and it gives me just a wee bit more chance to play around with that. But the best pro for the whole thing that I just really thought about last night was, I've got a cupboard full of old Rangers tops, Rangers polo shirts, and a whole bunch of different paraphernalia that I've really accumulated over the years, and I don't want to put it away in storage. And I don't really have cause to wear. I don't go that many places where I'm like, I'll wear that today, I'll wear that tomorrow, I'll wear that the next day. I don't really have a massive wardrobe and a massive active wardrobe. So, but I don't want to leave a big gap in my wardrobe, and I also don't want to put stuff away that's meaningful. I've had some very meaningful experiences in this apparel. So then I thought, you know what? Every week I can bring out a new shirt, a new t-shirt or something like that, and maybe talk about it, maybe not, but at least you'll get a chance to see it, and then I get a chance to wear it, and that's kind of cool as well. So today I'm just going Rangers Supporters Club of Calgary hoodie, and the third shirt or the fourth shirt or the fifth shirt or the sixth shirt from this particular season, but it gives me a chance to kind of Rangers it up a wee bit as well. So in terms of the show for this week, so what I do is I accumulate my notes throughout the week, basically. If there's something's newsworthy or I think it's newsworthy, what I would do is I would just pop a note into my notes and say, I'm going to mention that on Monday. And one of the things that I was going to talk about was after the what would that be, the Dundee United game, that we had Danny Rule saying, basically there's a lot of games to be played. There's 20 odd games to be played and such. And the key downer for me in respect to that is, that's what all the managers say when things aren't going their way. And by the way, maybe they say it when things are going their way as well. But for me, from a confidence perspective, that's more like, I need to say that, but I don't really mean it, because we're going to just keep going from strength to strength here. So after the Dundee United game, when he said that, I'm kind of like, every field manager has said a version of that. And by the way, it's not very inspirational. And by the way, on top of that, it's certainly not very inspirational because of this current squad that we're dealing with. But then when you see how the week unfolded in terms of the result midweek and then the results on the weekend, then you start to go, I don't know, because I thought both games were in their own right. The Dundee United and the Kilmarnock game were both very entertaining, and certainly, and what's entertaining from our perspective? Entertaining from our perspective is some flowing football, some chances created, some things that you don't typically normally see, and keeping things as tight as possible in the back. We managed to do a couple of those things, but not all of those things. And I think ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to get what we get between now and the end of the season. And I know that sounds very cliche, but I think what we've experienced in the first period of the season is going to be the same. We're going to have some stink bomb performances. We're going to have one of those, some of those like, where did that come from? Never expected that, positively and negatively. And then we're going to see where we end up. And what I'd said at the beginning of December, actually, I think it was after the Falkirk game, the 0-0 game, I'd said there's a very strong possibility we'll be 14 or 15 points behind come the end of the month or come the Old Firm game. I'm kind of changing my tune a wee bit. It felt like we threw away points to Dundee United and to Falkirk, although I think in Falkirk we got what we deserved because it was just so bland, the whole performance. But the rest of the league aren't exactly stripping away from us. Yes, there's a bit of a gap there, but not as much as it was at the beginning of last month, like I had mentioned over the last couple of weeks there. So we'll see what that looks like. In terms of entertainment for this week, I do have a wee segment, probably about 10 or 15 minutes, with my good friend, David Edgar from the Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. And he's on to talk about the season thus far, and then talk also about his forthcoming show in January here with Stevie Clifford from Four Lads and CJ Novo, and of course the legend that is Mark Haitley. So I'll splice that in a wee bit later on, so that'll be the same for the audio and the video there too. So you know what? One of the key things from our perspective for this last week, and I'll talk about this a wee bit later on when we get to the NARSA update, the kind of admin, the leadership update, is that we had the main thing from an organisation perspective was the World Cup draw this last week there, and it was on Friday morning, and I had said during it, so I had the TV on in the background, and downstairs in my office downstairs, the TV's kind of behind my screen so that I can work on my stuff and then I can also see what's happening. So I had a meeting, I had a couple of meetings, and I'm in the meetings and I'm kind of just looking in the background. And man, oh man, did they stretch that out, didn't they? And I guess they have to, because if they're flying a whole bunch of people in, they want to make it a little bit entertaining. They want to make it kind of poignant. They want to make sure everybody knows what's happening and such. But it seemed long. And I'd said during it, this is like one of our NARSA AGMs at some point, because it just went on and on and on and on. And then the confusion around the draws about, we can't have so many from one federation in the same group, and then they've got this new format where they've got a seeded system where kind of like tennis or such like that, where the seeded teams will have court some sort of favour or be rewarded for their performances in their world rankings to give themselves an opportunity to, in FIFA's eyes, I imagine, have the best teams in the finals come that time. But man, they dragged it out, and then at the end they just botched the YMCA, didn't they? Interesting song choice for the end of the whole ceremony, but to then have the guys out starting the music, and then the backing singers come out a wee bit after that, and then the lead singer come out a bit dishevelled, going, young man, like it's too bad. That's what happens with live TV, of course, but just one of these things. Anyway, so on to the game segment for this week, and we did have two games this last week, and of course the first one was the 2-2 draw at Tannadice, and it was, I'll fast forward to the end a wee bit. I was watching it with my niece Chloe, and I had in a bit of a huff, I had my jacket on, I had my, what we call here, a toque, which is a beanie, like warm hat sort of thing. I had that on. I was ready just to storm out the door and walk around the corner, and then we got the penalty, and then and it just, there's a wee bit of a spring in my step after that as we're walking through, and I thought, honestly, from an entertainment perspective, that's one of the most entertaining games that I've seen for the season for the team. And some of the attacking play I thought was excellent, and some of the defensive play was just what we've come to expect from Rangers this season, particularly with this defence. We got the first goal in about 10 minutes, and not us, of course. Where you get their guy running through, our defence is basically nowhere to be seen, and the guy runs through from pretty much the halfway line, wasn't it, all the way through, unchallenged, and then he chips it over Butland, who kind of looked like he went down a wee bit early, but he has to do something, not his fault at all. Fernandez just got caught on his heels, didn't get anywhere close to him, and gave him a wee bit of a nudge at the end. The boy puts the ball in the net, and you're thinking, oh my God, here we go. We've got a chance to equalise a wee while later, and Majowski was in the right positions, but for whatever reason just seemed to have nothing behind his shots in the whole night. And this might be a different conversation if what had happened on Saturday not had happened, but in Majowski, I think the whole fan base at the time, I'm not speaking for everyone, I'm just thinking about the general sentiment, was that this is exactly what we need. It's a known quantity. It's a guy who we've seen scoring against basically everyone in the league just a couple of years ago. Hasn't played a lot of football, so he's not going to be worn and torn. He should be fresh. And he's just been a complete shell of the player that we thought we were going to get. And of course, he didn't connect properly in the goalie. Got the save in with a Raskin header, kind of cleared off the line, that I remember, but with lots and lots of pressure. And then we've got, in the second half, a Danilo overhead kick that comes off the bar. That would have been brilliant if that one had went in. We've got Gassama hitting the post, and then the follow-up just didn't fall for Danilo, who's having he had those 2 games where he scored the winning goal in both games, brilliant finishes a wee while back, and has just been kind of non-existent since then. Then they've got a corner. Butland makes a great save from the corner. Of course, this set-piece coach. Do you know what the set-piece coach reminds me of? Reminds me of Ant-Man, where we have that brilliant first game. Remember, Fernandez scores the very first game the set-piece coach is in for. And then we haven't done anything from a set-piece perspective. Remember Ant-Man's first game for us when he's only been there for 5 minutes and plays brilliantly, and we haven't seen anything of that sort of calibre of performance since then. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And we've got more than enough chances to make a clearance after that save, but the boy gets a chance to just kind of run, bring it across. A good finish by him, to be fair, but the space we gave him, we're just not ruthless enough in defence, and that's the annoying thing for me. And then we've got an opportunity here to see what it looks like. They're desperate for a handball. There's like 850 replays. Oh, the caveat to this for me, I was watching it in my sister and brother-in-law's house, or my niece's house, and they were watching it on, what is it, BT Sports or something like that. So I didn't get a chance to hear Tom Miller on RTV commentary for this, but oh man, I do not miss that. They had Michael Stewart on the co-commentating, and this, like, I don't. There's obviously appeases some people, I imagine, from the other half of the city, but it's just absolute nonsense. The guy talks literal garbage. The guy talks, and they do about 850 replays for the handball that wasn't given on Fernandez. I don't think it. I mean, it was obviously a handball, but it wasn't interfering with play. I mean, he couldn't have his hands in any more of a natural position to get that going. And then we've got an opportunity, where we've got that. Chermiti gives us a chance to put a name for himself, big guy in there, everything is good about it, and he has the header, and the header goes wide, and that's just when you're like, you know what, he's just not going to do. He's not going to do, absolutely, and it's just one of these things that I think we've got an opportunity to look at and see and experience and feel the weight of this £8 million price tag, and the fact that the guy's just not ready for this type of style of level of football. And it's just the basics. I mean, it was I know it's a cliche again, but more difficult to miss than it was to score that one. And then we get the penalty at the end, a wee bit soft, but they're fairly confident. The referee was confident at the time. VAR didn't make a fuss about that particular one. And then you've got, of course, we've taken Tav off, so you're like, who's going to take it? And Bajrami goes up, and a great penalty, actually, really, really well finished, and we get the draw. What was that, 7 seconds to go, 9 seconds to go, or something like that? So we get a draw. We'll take it. And in my head I'm thinking, well, it's another point closer to second spot, hopefully, if we can chase that. But entertaining game, good for us to fight to the end and do what we want to do, and a lot of attacking play was pretty good. So in terms of the positive, as I say, point is something that it didn't look like it was very likely towards the end of the game. We did create a lot of chances, and for me, more good more good than bad, I think, is probably the best thing. From a negatives perspective, not finishing the chances is just it's just the way we do it, isn't it? And our attacking, again, I'll change my mind a wee bit for the Kilmarnock game, but our attacking presence just is pretty much non-existent. I think other teams know that as well. So on another day with a proper defence, I mean, that's a 3 or 4-0 game for Rangers on another day, but of course it's not. In terms of the stats, 67% possession is what it says. We had 17 shots on goal with 10 on target, and scoring 2 of those, what's that, 20%? That's not good enough to win any games, but I mean, it's a good amount of shots, because I was complaining about the fact that we weren't creating anything a couple of weeks before it, so whatever that looks like. Versus 9 on target, 9 on goal with 6 on target for Dundee United. In terms of the ref watch, Dave Dickinson, I think he did all right. He booked Gassama for diving, and I didn't think it was a dive at all. I mean, I'm not saying it was a penalty, but I don't think it was the guy just bundled into him, and he didn't, do the fish move or anything like that to arc his body and, whatever it looks like, and he just couldn't get that yellow card out of his pocket quick enough there, but he did make up for it for the penalty award at the end. So I don't know that he gets a 7 out of 10, but I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for that one, because I think he's just, it seems to be every Rangers team has a player that will constantly be booked by referees for whatever they feel like at a given point in time, and it seems to be Gassama is the guy that is doing that, or getting that treatment for right now. Second game was Kilmarnock, and on Saturday, 8:00 kickoff back home, 1:00 in Calgary. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Went down there nice and early, got some lunch, had a few beers. Leo drove me home. It was great, and it was a lot of fun. It was good. We didn't have that many people down there, unfortunately, but it was still good. It's just good to be there when other people are there and get a chance to show off Rangers, actually, to the general public that are there too. But a solid performance, ups and downs within the match. Very rarely do I ever recall an exciting game at Kilmarnock. And when I say exciting, I mean exciting from a Rangers perspective. There's a lot of times when the fans have been, there's hardly any fans here as well, wasn't there? But, there's a lot of times when the fans are really on it and the Rangers are there for the taking and such like that, maybe back to the McInnes days. But it didn't feel like that. It just felt like a game where we were in pretty much good control. There was that, they had a chance first with that, where it was given for offside, where the guy came from well inside his own half, and thankfully Conor Barron chased him back, didn't give up, and then cleared it off the line. And then so we've signed a new player. I mentioned him earlier. He scored a penalty in the game before, but if you are my nephew Callum, it's Bag of Jammies is what he thinks Barjami is called. So Bag of Jammies. He unfortunately had to go. He had to go off injured. I didn't even see him go off. Actually, I was kind of like, "Why is Curtis on?" I didn't even see that, because when it's kind of social, I'm kind of running around speaking to people and things like that. But it was I thought that we were really, really potent. Not for the first time from the right hand side as well. When Gassama's on the right hand side, there just seems to be a lot more fluency up there. I think he works very well up there, and of course when Tav's there, he worked well with Tav, and at the weekend obviously Tav was given a wee bit of a break. And then you've got Majowski with the 2 goals. In fact, that's exactly what we thought we were getting when we signed him. Not just tap-ins or anything like that, like really good strikes where the goalie's like, oh, all right, he's back. I guess that's exactly what it is. Two brilliant finishes to give us that control there. And then you've got Mikey Moore coming on, who if you listen or I guess you wouldn't have watched this in the early part of the season. If you'd have listened, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get the hype. I don't understand what it is with this guy. But when you put it in context, he's moving for the first time in probably his life, I imagine. I don't know if he did it alone before he came to Rangers. And he's 17. He couldn't play for a couple of weeks, remember, till he was 18, and there was going to be more paperwork with UEFA or whatnot. And then he's in that side, and he's being coached by that coaching team and such. It must have been very, very confusing for the boy. Then he starts to play well, where you're like, oh, right, I get it now. This guy is actually a game changer. And then he gets injured. But the great thing was, he comes on, and it looks like he's never been away. You know, it looks like he's just picking up where he left off, and you know, an absolutely brilliant finish by him to make it 3. He should have had the 4th. I don't know. I mean, I do know why it was chalked off, but it didn't look like a foul. That guy wasn't getting anywhere near to the ball, and it was too bad, because I think 4 would have been really, really good, and it was a great finish that he had for that one as well. But that's just the way things go at times, and it's just a wee bit easier not to give a goal for Rangers than it is to give a goal for Rangers. We did have a wee bit of a scare when, I think it was, what was it, 2-0? When Diomande, you know, basically dragged the guy back from the edge of the area, but it wasn't given. And I think Bobby Madden had said afterwards it wasn't given because the chances of him getting to the ball wasn't clear enough or something like that. That seems like an odd rule. I'd be really disappointed if it was the other way about, to be perfectly honest. And that was just Diomande being Diomande of this season. He's kind of lazy of mind. It's almost like he just falls asleep and he's just kind of, you know, looking around going, oh, I better go do something. And it's certainly not been his best season, not the only one, but that could have made it 2-1 and then make it a wee bit hairy towards the end, but thankfully not. And we get away with a very solid result. And of course, that result becomes all the more poignant for us because we are in a situation where we see Hearts beat that mob at Sharkhead yesterday, and all the fun GIFs and memes and videos and stuff going around with his wee magnet board and things like that. I am going to reserve, you know, my judgment, and actually David and I chatted about it. David and I had recorded earlier, so I do know what he said. But I'm of the same mind as David, where I laughed at Ange Postecoglou for the first. Actually, I laughed at him while Steven Gerrard was there, and then it became less funny because he just ended up having the Midas touch and managing to do what he did over the couple of seasons that he was there. So I'm not going to say that the new guy is an absolute mess, but it's just nice to see, and not very often we have a weekend like that where we have a solid performance and result, and followed by nothing of the kind at the other side. So good to see. And the positives, we scored 4 brilliant goals and got 3 of them. I think that was good, really efficient, and another entertaining game, certainly from an attacking sense. You know, Butland had a few saves to make, of course, but we were actually saying that at the game, never really felt in too much danger. Even when Butland was making the saves, it was saves that he should have made, and it was good. It was good. I think I really enjoyed that. And of course, the biggest plus for me is Majowski finally showing what he's made of and that type of style of stuff. And from a striker perspective, if he gets on the score sheet this week and then, you know, next Monday and such, then you start to go, right, so that's starting to become a thing up front. And then we can start to look at what we need to address in other areas of the pitch come the January transfer window. So we'll see what that looks like, but not a moment too soon, Bojan. So thank you for everything that you did on the weekend there. In terms of the negatives, you know, I don't know if this is a negative in terms of the actual game itself. It should and could have been 2 away wins in a row in 2 games that you're kind of like, well, don't really know what's going to happen, but it didn't end up being like that, which is a wee bit annoying overall. But I'm never ever going to complain about a 3-0 win on any circumstance with this current team and for the Rangers teams that we have for right now. So I'll take it, and certainly when it's away from home on a plastic pitch in a stadium that we've typically struggled in, I'm going to just take that from that. In terms of the stats, it said we had 60% possession, so dominating possession both games away from home. I don't think that's a fluke. And what was that? 9 shots with 6 on target versus 11 shots with 3 on target as well. I don't remember them having 11, but maybe there was a couple of skied shots and such like that. Who knows? The referee was Kevin Clancy. I've mentioned it before, and it's kind of not his fault, I don't think, but he's just a downer. He doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies that he's good for the game, that he's going to be fair and balanced for Rangers. But I think, you know, chalking off Mikey Moore's 4th goal and Mikey Moore's 2nd goal, our 4th at the time, was harsh. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 as well. In terms of the games for this week, we've got, I'm going to butcher the name, Ferencváros, whatever it's called. It's almost like bag of jammies, isn't it? And that's in the Europa League on Thursday, the 11th of December. Now, this one's an early kick-off time, 5:45 p.m. UK time, which is, what's that, 12:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think, for me now, I think the European season is a bit of a write-off. So points make prizes. So the more points we can get, the more money we'll get in as a result of that. So point would be great. I don't really know even how good they're doing in the league for right now, so I'm not 100% sure. And then the next game we've got, we actually don't have one next weekend. I'll be talking to you before, and I wonder if I should record that after. Now that I think about it, I'll think about that. But we're playing Hibs next Monday because it's a League Cup final this weekend, and I guess the police and whomever else couldn't really figure out logistically how to get Rangers playing at Ibrox on the same weekend. It seems like there's plenty of other types and styles of kickoff times that might have worked, but I guess not. We just had one last week there at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, but Monday night it is, so I'll talk a wee bit more about that next week and see where it looks like. But Dundee United and Killie are down. We've got Ferencváros and Hearts to come in terms of away from home, and then we've got Hibs, Motherwell and St Mirren at home, so that's all before the Old Firm game. I don't know. Who knows how that's all going to look, what it's all going to look like as we go forward here. But I'm not as doom and gloom as I was at the end of last month, beginning of this month. So we'll see how that goes and figure that out. In terms of shout outs for this week, I did get a message from my good friend Colin Bowman down in Orlando at the Orlando Rangers Supporters Club, and he says that Orlando Rangers Supporters Club is 30 years old. You might remember back, if you listened to this podcast for quite some time, that what we were initially planning to do was to have the convention in Orlando essentially in 2026, so that would be in coinciding with their 30th anniversary. But when Rangers had approached us to say, would you be interested in doing something in conjunction with Experience Kissimmee, we just kind of moved that around a wee bit. So yes, they are formally celebrating their 30th anniversary, and that's on Saturday the 3rd of January from 6 p.m. till midnight, and that's at their host club, which is Tav's Tavern, otherwise known as Murphy's Pub. And it says here, I'm going to read this out. In 2026, our club marks its 30th anniversary, and we're kicking things off in true style. Join us for a wee swally. Come on, Colin. Swally on Saturday, January the 3rd at 6 p.m. at Murphy's Pub, Orlando. Whether you're catching your breath after the day's early start or winding down from the theme parks, this is the perfect chance to relax, reconnect, and toast 3 decades of camaraderie, heritage, and good cheer. Let's make it a night worthy of our milestones. Stories shared, laughter flowing, and glasses raised high. And there's a link there for the Facebook page, so I'll put that on there. Of course, that's the Old Firm Day as well. And I know Colin was like, what's the sweet spot of when to have it? Should we have it immediately after the Old Firm game? What if the Old Firm game doesn't go that great? What if people are coming to the Old Firm game in preparation for doing the theme parks and such? So they've landed on 6 p.m. and it's going to be a great time down there, I am sure. In my earlier days, when I was richer, I would have been saying, I will be there, I will see you there. Unless something dramatic happens in the next 3.5 weeks. I can't see that happening, but I'm sure it's going to be a brilliant time. A belated birthday wish for my partner's daughter, my stepdaughter, I guess I could say. That's Victoria Perry, who was 16 last Tuesday, I believe it was. And one of the reasons I didn't mention it was that my love, Erin, has basically stopped listening to this podcast every single week, so I could basically say anything that I want. And also she stopped listening to my other podcast that I do when I release a weekly podcast on my business side and such. She stopped listening to that as well. She's very, very busy, and it's very difficult to fit it all in. But very, very happy birthday, 16 years old, Victoria. Wow, incredible. I did get a shout out from my nephew, Callum, Bag of Jammies, Callum, that one, yep, and it's for, I would like to wish my most favourite uncle in the entire world, who's also the star of the NARSA Weekly Podcast Update, a very happy birthday on Tuesday, the 9th of December. I'm making all of this up. He just said, give yourself a shout out for me on Monday's pod, will you? And that was it. So I'll do that. It's my birthday tomorrow. And I am hopefully getting a chance to celebrate with Leo and the Careys at the same time. And I'll get a chance to see my love, hopefully at some point a wee bit later this week or so. So thank you very much for that, Bag of Jammies. And just a reminder for Amanda and Jason Jr. Ross, who are running the London Marathon here, what would that be, in probably about 5 months from now, in April, on behalf of the Royal British Legion. And this is the time where I am going to cut over to my interview with my pal David Edgar, where we're going to discuss a wee bit about the season and a wee bit about his upcoming show. Hello everyone, I am absolutely delighted for the very first video NARSA weekly update to have my very good friend David Edgar from Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, to join me today. David, how are you doing, my friend?
A bit of a cold. Everybody back home does, viewers at the moment. Unfortunately, it's going about as we would say to each other. But at least I'm getting out of the road before Christmas. So
Exactly that.
that's the way I'm looking at it. Like,
And it makes me laugh when people say I've got a bit of a cold. Here we're having a wee bit of a respite in Canada here today. I think we might hit zero, and then at the end of the week we're going to be back to the normal minus 25 degrees.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Maybe that's what keeps you healthy, though, because the bugs don't have they can't survive at that temperature.
Exactly.
But no, you know what it's like over here. One person gets it, and then it just sweeps everybody. So yeah, but as I say, always look on the bright side of life. That should be me. Hopefully, all right to eat my Christmas dinner, and that's the main thing.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So. You know what? The tone of this conversation, like you do your daily podcasts, of course, I do the weekly one, and it's like a roller coaster, especially this season. But when you compound it into the last, 12 or 13 seasons, it just seems like it's the same all the time. And I have a vision for what this conversation is going to be like. And then we have the result on Saturday night.
An actual good weekend.
Exactly. Yeah. A genuine good weekend. And then on Sunday morning, we have another result that is quite in keeping with giving us some good vibes and a chance to be in a good mood. What's your take overall in the season thus far?
It's one of the strangest seasons I can remember, Gary. I mean, from a Rangers point of view, the frustration comes obviously with new owners, new start you're hoping for, but then they made the same mistakes that the previous owners have made, which is hiring the wrong people.
Yeah.
Any business, I know you do, apart from this podcast, I know you work on strategies for businesses. Hiring the wrong people is the first and biggest mistake you can make. If you don't get the right people, then you're screwed, and Rangers proved that. And then they did react, which is fair enough. They didn't try to bludgeon it out too much. I think Martin should be sacked after Bruges, personally. I don't think he shouldn't have been hired, but that's easy to say now. But they have started the correction. It's just frustrating for us that the correction needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because I'm a great believer that you can't really pull people up for mistakes that can only be seen with the benefit of hindsight, but these weren't that. I know on Heart and Hand we ran a poll, do you want Russell Martin as manager? 95% of people said no. Now, this is not a reactive site. This is not Twitter. People don't shout and ball at each other on Heart and Hand. It's sensible. It's a lot of the people watching this are members, and the debate is sensible. But that, I think, told you, and it wasn't based on, what it was like as a person or whatever. It was the style of manager will not work for us in Scottish football. The signings, I will go to my grave believing, and there's nothing anyone says that will change my mind, that what happened was that they came in and went, well, Stuart and Thelwell have been in the EPL, which is the be-all and end-all of everything, and therefore they know what they're doing. And then they came in and went, look, we've been in the EPL, we know exactly, this is Hicks League, this is just backwards league, we're going to be absolutely fine. And they signed players. They've been in England too, so they must be good. And we've seen this before. And I think that what they've got in with Danny Rule is somebody who's just a pragmatist. It's that simple. They've got in somebody who's not a dreamer. He's very, very honest. He's very straightforward. Whether he's the right guy or not, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Time will tell on that one. But what you won't have is a guy who says, no, I'm doing it this way, and doesn't matter if I don't have the players, and doesn't matter if it's not right for this club or this league. You've got a guy who's come in and he's just going, okay, right, I don't have a great squad, which he doesn't, we all know that. I need to try and get as much out of it as is humanly possible at the moment. And he is. He's trying at the moment, and he's doing okay. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it or overdo it. He's doing okay. And I think that's a lot better than where we were a few weeks ago. But as you say, no Rangers fan is sitting here going, right, corner turned, we beat Kilmarnock, everything's magic. I think that we are aware of the limitations of this squad. And there are some players in there, I think, who can perform a bit better than they have been. There's no doubt about that. And I was delighted, absolutely delighted to see Bojan Miovski get those goals, because that's the Bojan I think we all thought we were getting.
Yeah.
And we weren't basing the Miovski thing on pure hope. We'd seen him. We'd seen him in Scotland. We'd seen him score goals in this league, a couple of years ago. And he just didn't look like the same player. But now we're beginning, again, baby steps, but beginning. Those were two brilliant strikers finishes, I thought, on Saturday night. Those were two. That must be a good kickoff time for you guys, was it?
Brilliant.
Yeah. I was just thinking that, actually. You wouldn't have seen 9 o'clock, though, if you were out on...
I did not. I
thought as much if you were out before it. But, it was a good performance. There's still a long way to go, but there are some positives. The Celtic result wasn't a massive shock because they haven't been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
And people have said to me, Hearts, they could win the league. I still don't believe they can. And it's not because I don't think they're a good side. And it's not, believe it or not, because of what they'll do against Celtic and Rangers. I mean, they've beaten them 3-3 this season.
Yeah.
Rangers and Celtic, sorry. Celtic were in my mind first there because they played Hearts, not the other way about, before anybody shouts at me. But the reason that I don't think they'll win the league is that their status has changed with the other teams. Now they're seen as a big match, almost on a level of the Old Firm, that they now have to come up against low blocks, 10 men behind the ball, whatever you want to call it. Teams that will just sit there and go, okay, we don't want the ball, and we're not coming out, so we will park here all day and happily don't see the ball. And that's a different challenge. And if you look at Hearts' last few games, where they've had to try and overcome it, they haven't been able to. That's going to get them this year. And that's before you get into things like squad depth and whatnot. But they're a growing side, and they're going to get better over the next few years, I think. But I think this year will be too early for them. As for Celtic, I mentioned at the start, it's been a bizarre year, in my opinion, because it's almost like they looked at the problems we had in the summer and went, oh, that looks good. Let's do that. Now, I'm not going to... an absolute philosophy manager. They could argue they've had success with it before in Postecoglou, but I mean, sometimes it's just the right person at the right time who's got the right skill set, and it's not just about he's got a philosophy there for everyone who has it. I think Rangers fell for that. Everyone who has a philosophy is the same. No, it's about man management and player recruitment, identifying the right talent. So I'm not going to slag Nancy at the moment, because I did laugh when they brought in Postecoglou and look how that turned out. So I'll keep my powder dry. All I'll say is it seemed a strange appointment at a strange time, because I think they were doing fine, with O'Neill there, and he does know the league and all the rest of it. It just seems a big gamble for them, an unnecessary gamble for them to take. Plus, they're in a civil war. So there is still a lot of room for this Rangers year to grow, but unless we take care of our own business, then it doesn't matter what Hearts or Celtic do. It's about what we do.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think the thing for me, I've been saying on the pod actually for years now, to be honest with you, David, is there's no organisation in the world that can sustain this type and style of change that we've constantly had in the leadership of the club. So the leadership from the admin side all the way down, and then with that, the frustration that I have is that we know that there isn't a quick fix. There's no team in the world that has had, this one season wonder type thing. Even when you think about Leicester, that was built up and built in, over a period of time, and then it just all clicked in that one particular year and things like that. So when you look at how bleak things were for us at the very beginning of the season, you're then in a situation where you're like this is like, when are the good times coming back? I just want a trophy at some point to look at and say that's great, and we can kind of build from there. We had that opportunity, of course, in '55, and then we never quite managed to kick on from there through our own set of circumstances. But the interesting thing on the appointment of the manager on the other side of the city, I think it's really, really interesting, because it seems like a desperation appointment. When you talked about the Civil War, when you're under pressure, you don't make the right type and style of decisions that are going to serve you in the longer term, and you do stuff, and it's not until you have that benefit of hindsight to go back and say, I kind of did rush it. We had already started and we didn't realise that O'Neill was going to steady the ship or whatever. But I'm not going to talk about them so much, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of what they're doing, and they're welcome to it.
Exactly how I see it as well. It's like, okay, have you not been watching us, and see what we've been doing, because we're now trying to get out of doing something similar. But it could work out brilliantly, and so I'm not going to be a hostage clutching here. It does only matter what we do. There are lots of areas in the squad that are not up to it, full stop. Not even, we're past the debate on it.
Yeah.
I think guys like Asgard and Ant-Man are just not going to work out here. And I think, wouldn't be surprised if they were heading. Certainly wouldn't be surprised with the likes of Rothwell and Aarons, etc. All left, even just in January. So we'll need to get players in. I think that we need a better understanding, and they should have it now, Gary. I mean, you can excuse it a bit, not hugely, because they should have done their homework more, but you can excuse it a little bit as, well, they were just in the door, naivety, but that's gone now. They know the sort of players that are required, the sort of challenge that it is, and the type of people that we need to bring in January. And if we get them, we can, still have a decent season, because it's not a vintage league, right? It's not a vintage season. It's not a strong league, and we do need to just get our SHIT together and sort out what we want to do, where we want to go. But I think we've been a wee bit too chicken before the egg this season, and right, we'll get a philosophy first. Rangers have a philosophy. It's called winning. Now, do you need to take certain steps to ensure how we get there? Yes, absolutely correct. But I think that we bought into stuff that wasn't applicable to us. And I think, for example, the Chermiti signing's a great example of that. In England, they'll spend £8 million on potential, and a boy that might in 2-3 years become a top player. Nah, you can't do that here. £8 million to us is a fortune, and it has to be somebody who hits the ground running. And he may not be, a world beater in 3 years, but can he score goals now? That's what matters. And also, you can maybe grow to that level if Rangers have won 5 in a row. In 6 years, we might go, okay, we can start to, but you can't do it straight away when the fans are desperate. So, no, it's been very up and down, and there will be more lows to come this season. I don't doubt that for a second. There'll be more performances that leave us absolutely wanting to choke them. But at least there are offering some bright spots. And I think in the likes of Mikey Moore, I think you can see why he's rated the way that he's rated. I loved that on Saturday. I loved the fact that he got on the park, looked like he'd never been away, not easing back in after injury, gets the ball, drives on, scores a goal, could have had another, was brilliant. And the thing is about with Moore, he got kind of caught up in the early season of the new sign, understandably so, and also because we've had a lot of loans from English academies that haven't worked. He's slightly different. He's not a loan like, say, a Magoma, who's a good player, that Brentford are hopeful will turn into a quality player. And this is part of that. In Moore's case, he's been tipped for the top for, the very top for a number of years. He is seen as a bit of a wonder kid. But what impressed me about him, Gary, on Saturday was, here was a boy that, 17 when he arrived at Rangers, turned 18 since. Comes this horrendous period for us. I mean, it was awful. Right? The fans are in uproar, right? Tumult, manager getting sacked. And he's come through it, and he's gone on football pitch. He's gone, give me the ball. I want the responsibility. Leadership is not an age thing. Leadership is something I think we've confused before. When I hear people say things, managers. I mean, not say, well, when we talk about lack of leaders, and then they say, for example, well, we've got John Souttar. John Souttar's not a leader. He's an experienced player. He can pass on experience, but he's not a leader. You're making the mistake of, he's experienced, he's older, he's a leader. No, he's just experienced. Whereas Mikey Moore's 18, but he's a leader. In that, when things are tough, he's like, give me the ball, I'll make something happen. In the way that Gaza was a leader, daft as a brush, but on the park, he was somebody you could look to when times were tough, because he wanted it. He wanted the ball. He didn't hide. and you see that. But then you've still got other players that drive me nuts. See Mandy on Saturday, the incident that should have been a penalty. That's just lazy.
Yeah.
He hadn't picked up David Watson, and rather than chasing him back, he just pulled him back, and that could have cost us. So there's still room for improvement.
Which is great, because then, there's a belief there that we have that room for improvement. We have that opportunity to be able to say we can squeeze more out of that. You can get a wee bit more tactically, savvy, if you like, that sort of thing. So those are the key important parts for me. So one of the main reasons I wanted to chat to you today, David, is that you have a very exciting show coming up that I've been mentioning on the NARSA Weekly Update for the last couple of weeks with a couple of good pals. You want to tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, we're doing a live show at New Edmiston House on January the 9th, and slightly different. I've done Heart and Hand ones before. This is one where I'm doing with Stevie Clifford from Four Lads Had a Dream and CG Novo, who I'm sure a lot of your viewers will know from his YouTube channel. And I've been pals for years now, and it was an idea we had rather than maybe do something a bit different. And Mark Haley's going to join us as well, and people of course will have met Mark at NARSA's over the years, and he's great to have in these things because he's not a politician at all. Mark, if you ask him a question, you will get an answer, and it will be an honest answer. And he that I think is invaluable. He doesn't try and talk round an issue. He gets right to the nub of the matter. He's got amazing insight in it. So we're very much looking forward to it. As I say, January the 9th, the idea being something to look forward to that first week back after Christmas. Come along to this on a Friday night. And also, if you're very lazy, you can buy Christmas presents for people here. Just 2 clicks. Just go to Edmiston House, what's on our show, and that's you, and you've bought people tickets for the show. So I'm very looking forward to it. Ticket sales are going quite well, which is good. Always good. You don't want to turn up there and there's 4 people because you need to pay for the hire of the hall anyway. So I'd be selling teeth and kidneys to try and get people in. But it'll be a good show, be a wee bit different, and hopefully, as I say, if Rangers continue to pick up good away results and improve the home form, then it'll be an absolute party night. But we'll look forward to it, mate.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, all the very, very best for that. I'll continue to plug it. And I think you're right. You've hit the nail on the head there in terms of Christmas, because I was kind of thinking there's a couple of people back home that...
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Don't spend time thinking this Christmas, folks. For the Rangers fan in your life, get them this. They would rather come and see this, I'm sure, than get socks. So unless he really needs socks, that's a conversation you should be having with him privately.
Aye, exactly, 100%. David, my friend, thank you very, very much for coming on the show. You're welcome here anytime. It's great to see you on the very first, the first video one as well, and all the very best with the show.
Yes, first video one, yes, absolutely. No, it's always good to be on. I love NARSA. I love all the people at it. Been so fortunate over the years to meet so many people from it, lasting and real friendships, and that is the point of what we do, because there's no point. The triumphs you spoke at one earlier, it'd be great to have trophies and stuff. Why? So we can share it with each other. That's the point of this, I love Rangers, but if I was just sitting in a room on my own watching them all the time, it wouldn't be what it is. And getting to go, and when we do occasionally get a great result or a great win or whatever, or win something, when my phone lights up and there's people from, Florida and Calgary, and it's like, this is amazing, this thing that brings us together. So hello to everyone at NARSA, and thank you for having me on, Gary.
You're a good man, thanks a million. Great stuff from David there. We started recording. He says, I've got a hard stop at the half hour here, let's go. And then he proceeds to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and made himself late. But the night and with CJ Novo and Stevie Clifford sounds like an absolutely brilliant one. And of course, with Mark Haley being there and the honesty and openness and entertainment that Mark provides, it's going to be a brilliant night. And if you are looking for a specific Christmas present for someone, or a last wee minute stocking filler or such, then I would highly recommend doing that. I've done a few live shows with David over the years at the conventions, and he does a brilliant job. And I've never been to Edmiston House, and I can't wait to get an opportunity to go back. Maybe 2026 will be the year, and see what it's actually like, and get the look and feel for what that is. But if you have an opportunity to support it, if you're from the Rangers family back home and are looking for something to do in a month when things are just a wee bit, I don't know, meh, I guess is the best word to say, then I would highly recommend you go and do that. And I am going to try and get CJ Novo and Stevie Clifford on in a kind of similar vein over the next couple of weeks, certainly prior to the show. Anyway, in terms of the convention update, 184 days and 26 weeks. So 26 weeks is exactly half a year. So 6 months is what we're talking about here, folks. Oh no, I just put that together right now. Wow. So that's, of course, June the 11th to the 14th. And we have the hotel out for booking. The hotel sales are going really well. We're about 65% sold thus far in terms of the hotel booking. So if you are planning on coming, please don't hesitate to get on the hotel booking so you've secured your room there. And we had a meeting yesterday that was supposed to be for half an hour, and of course it went for an hour because that's just how we do things at NARSA. And it was to essentially talk about, now that we have the fixture list or the schedule for the World Cup, and now the dates and times specifically confirmed, how are we going to build our itinerary around that? So I don't have absolute information for you right now, but in terms of what the itinerary looks like, but we will be having the Walter Smith Memorial Grand Banquet. It might not be as grand of a banquet as we would typically do, but that's going to be happening. We're going to definitely have the Tam Plunkett Blue Night. It might not be on the traditional Friday night. We're going to mix it up. We're going to do what we can do, but we're going to be very respectful to the fact that the World Cup is on at the same time, and that we have, on the time that the convention is there, we have Scotland playing, of course, on the Saturday night. We have Canada playing. We have America playing as well. So we're going to build the itinerary primarily around the Scotland game, and the timing is actually really good for us on the Saturday. And then the rest of the games, we're going to just make sure that you have options and opportunity to be able to see the games if you want. I think it's really exciting from my perspective. Some people will think we're kind of thick to be having a convention around about the same time as the World Cup. We booked the convention before Scotland qualified for the World Cup. And it was going to be a convention, or destination NARSA, I should say. There was going to be an event of some description, whether Scotland qualified or didn't qualify, and we want to be true to that. Will it be as big as some of the other ones? We weren't planning on it. It might be, it might not be. It depends on how the team performs over the course of the rest of the season. But it's one of these things where we're going to be respectful to the World Cup. We're going to make sure that we don't have anything significant clashing with certainly the Scotland game, and we'll be respectful to the Canada and America games. I don't know that England are playing. We didn't actually talk so much about England, so I think possibly England might not be part of the first 4 days. Forgive me if I got that one wrong. I don't have the list of fixtures right now, but we've started putting together basically a one-pager that will detail all the events and then the games that are on at that point, so you can choose what you want to do. I want to go see that game, or I'm going to go do that thing, and figure that out. And we do have some action items where the guys are taking it away to contact the hotel, to contact some sports bars in and around the Midtown area where we are. And then once we have that organised and what's feasible at the hotel, we'll be able to then put together our ticket prices. So our ticket prices will absolutely be out prior to the Christmas period, in the same vein as David and the crew's their live show. We're looking to try and see if anybody's wanting to treat anybody to tickets. We'll figure that out. We just need to build up the full package of what it's going to cost and what it's going to look like, so that we can do all the things that we want to do and give you the best entertainment experience when you are there. So we are getting there, and it's very, very exciting. I have to say, it's beginning to look a lot like NARSA. Let's just say that, and that's kind of exciting from my perspective. In terms of the Gers guide, there was indeed a Gers guide today, which is kind of fun and exciting because I don't have to make it up then. And of course, since we had a decent result, we've got an away days segment on Rangers TV. There's also the Rangers women's team highlights. They beat Renfrew ladies 8-0 in the third round of the Women's Scottish Cup yesterday. And speaking of the Women's Scottish Cup, the draw for the Women's Scottish Cup is coming up at 7 p.m. UK. If you go to the Women's Scottish Cup socials, which I imagine is Facebook and Twitter, maybe Instagram, you'll probably see the draw being made at the time for the fourth round and figuring that out. But an 8-0 victory is great to march them on in defence of the Cup. On Tuesday, there's a loan review. On Wednesday's a press conference for the Ferencváros game. Again, I'm butchering that, I know. On Thursday, the game, just a reminder again, it is an early kick-off on Thursday for the game in the Groupama Arena. On Friday, there's a really cool thing coming out on Rangers TV, and it's the Gentleman Captain feature featuring David Meiklejohn, and that's celebrating the 125th anniversary of his birth. And I'm going to check that out. I think that's going to be excellent. Not too much happening on Saturday. On Sunday, Rangers women's team are at home to Partick Thistle. That's a 4:10 p.m. UK kick-off time. And there are two features on the Europhiles on Sunday. One is Real Betis versus Rangers from 2023. I think that was the first time we'd won away on Spanish soil under Philippe Clement, which was a night to remember. And then there's also Rangers versus Partizan Belgrade from 2006, and reading the blurb on that, it was a 1-0 victory. I guess they're not going to do Europhiles when we got spanked. We're not going to have a Europhiles for the Bruges games earlier this season, for example. and then we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that was an Alan Hutton, a bit of a rare Alan Hutton goal for us to beat Partizan Belgrade. I can't actually remember that game off the top of my head, so maybe I need to check that one out as well. Okay, my friends, first video. I would be really interested to see what you think about the video, and if you're an audio person only, if the video type, has in some way been an enhancement or been a distraction. I'm not going to do this big intro at the beginning of each podcast. It was just because this is the first one, of course, and we'll see how it goes. But please do like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps us with our ongoing marketing and sponsorship endeavours that Stephen is spearheading on behalf of NARSA, and please do give us an opportunity to widen our reach across the globe. Basically, just a wee reminder of the Eras Captain's Night, which is an evening with Barry Ferguson and special guests on the 19th of January. Ticket prices are £40 for that one. Okay, my friends, that will do it for this week. Thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to tune in. Please, as I say, do share it with someone that you think might enjoy it. And until next week, big European game, we'll see how that goes. Wee bit of a breather on the weekend until a crucial game at home. I mean, this is crucial from a whole variety of reasons, with that mob from the East End not playing this weekend because they're playing the mighty, someone in the League Cup final on the weekend. We have an opportunity to go within 3 points of them, and you just never know if that is going to have any sort of positive or negative effect on them kicking it on. But the whole point is we just need to keep winning games and keep getting closer, and the more teams that we can beat and the more that we can start to employ the philosophies by Danny Rule, the best opportunity we will have to maybe look forward to 2026 with some enthusiasm and optimism. So until next week, please do take care of yourself and all the very best. Okay, follow.